Live from the res here, special guest Berto Torres, as I know him. What's up, Bet? How you doing, man?
What's up, Raul? Man, honored to be here.
Yeah, I was gonna start it with the Kwan John Nim, KDIO, Kumeyaay.
It's Master Wilson stuff, huh?
That's right. Rest in peace, Master Wilson.
Yeah,
Grandmaster James A. Wilson. Kicho Punse over, sir.
Yeah.
Yay, man.
Yeah.
Do you remember that stuff when you hear it? Do you like what the heck?
Yeah. It's hard to forget, you know. He ingrained it in our brains, you know.
For those of you out there listening, you have no idea what we're talking about right now. That's some, I think it's Korean. That's what he told us.
Yeah,
It might have been something else. Sometimes when I'm speaking Kumeyaay and I lose my way, I'll just start going into that.
Start counting the numbers in Korean.
Yeah. We took Taekwondo for a few years back in the day, back when we were in high school, and our teacher, he's passed on now, but pretty intense dude, Grandmaster James A. Wilson, who was a lawyer, a doctor, and
Oh man,
I don't know.
He was everything, you know.
But he would always do his, he would always say those words and stuff, and then he'd always, like, when he kicked and stuff, be like, bache!
Bache, bacho! Oh man.
I love what you wanted to do when you were younger. Did you want to fight when you were young, or?
You know what?
You always seemed pretty cool back when we were in school. You didn't seem like you never were looking for fights. So.
No, you know what? It's something I just kind of fell into. You know, I know one of the promoters up there, you know, Campo was putting on the fights, and I just kind of watched the fight, and I was just kind of like talk a little bit of smack. I'm just like, hey man, if you're short and need somebody to fight, he's like, come on now. I'm just like, man, I'm just trying to get it, you know, I was just trying to get a ticket, but you know, I just kind of talk a little bit of smack, and then the fights came. He's like, hey man, we're short, somebody fell out or whatever. You want to fight? I'm just like, well, whatever. He's like, hey, we pay. I'm just like, oh shoot, I could use some money.
Can I do two?
Yeah. So yeah, I went out there and did the main event, and I got my ass kicked. It's like, hey, you know what? You did good. Why don't you go down to the gym and train? You know. So I was like, oh man, all right. So that's how it kind of happened. You know, it wasn't something that was planned or like, hey, I'm gonna go train to fight people. You know. So that's how it kind of fell into it. Yeah, kind of silly, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wonder how many people started their careers that way though, and went out there and just started scrapping.
Yeah.
I don't know. A lot. I remember those fights up there in Campo. They were cool, man. It was entertaining as hell.
Yeah.
But a lot of times you would tell someone just was straight off the street because they would look good maybe around, and then they would just be wiped out from cardio.
Well,
and then the other guy you could tell trained. And it was always rough, dude. It was like, oh, here it goes.
Well, that's the thing is like, growing up, fighting and, getting beat up and all that stuff. Like, I was always like a tough kid, growing up. But like when you get out there, it's just a fight or whatever. But yeah, you're absolutely wrong for going in there thinking like, oh, street fighting and then actually training somebody that actually is training to fight, it's not going to go well,
And I remember your family over there used to always, they'd make Shawii and things like that for our doings here in our community, and it's crazy because like now nobody does that anymore.
Yeah.
Like at our funerals and at our really like weddings, like all of our big events, you'd go in there and it'd always be the tortillas and the beans and all the the food.
Always.
And then there would always be like a couple trays of Shawii, and it's crazy because my wife in the mountains, my wife's family, they've done that. And they can continue to make it, and you'll see it. Families up there do it, but on my res here. It seemed like your family was one of the last families to really keep that going into the 90s and into 2000s, and it's like now, I don't see it as much, and I know you've had family members that passed on who were holding that tradition.
Yeah.
You never learned how to make Shawii, man?
Well, yeah, I never actually made it myself, but my mom, I used to watch her all the time, and she'd take us up to like, Manzanita and Campo, and we'd pick acorns, and, man, it was like it was a process, I'd sit there, she'd go through the acorns and, help her out and, sort them out and pull out the ones that were all bad and then dry them out for a while, and then she'd be there with like a rock and just cracking them, and she'd get them cracked and let them dry out and then peel them off, and then the roast would have to come off, so they'd do some more drying. So it was like, it wasn't something that was done in like a week or nothing at all. Yeah. It took time, and so it was like a lot of work. I'd sit there and see her do that, but when it came down to the grinding the acorns, man, she'd like, I was young, and I remember we had like this little hand grinder, and it was outside of our house that we grew up in, over there on the corner, and she had this grinder, and like, hey, get on out here and grind these acorns and pile them in there, and you're all just trying to bust through them. My cousin, my brother would be out there, but, they would only hang out for so long. They're older and just like, I'm out of here, go play, hang out with their friends. And, I'd be over there double timing it. And she like wanted them like more finely crushed or grinded up. So she put them back in there even the second time, and that'd be even harder because everything's like filing into the grinder and get more compact. I'm like, oh man, this is like really hard. But yeah, man, I remember my mom, going through all that and making the Shawii for, like you said, she used to do it all the time, for, wakes and, different stuff like that all the time.
Yeah, I always appreciate it. I don't know. It's one of those things too where I think you appreciate it later on, especially when it's not there anymore. And you're like, oh man, it's, because like there was someone made a pan not too long ago, and there's a lot of people who never had eaten it, and I was tripping out on it. Like, man, I know people have never eaten it before.
Wow.
Some of the younger crowd,
Yeah.
And I heard one person say they never even seen it before, and I was like, wow, they never even seen Shoei. But a lot of people are like, oh, I don't like it, like saying kind of negative things about it. Meanwhile, that's our traditional food, you know what I mean? That's what sustained our people for thousands of years. And I personally liked it, it reminded me of being a kid, and you throw some salt on it, throw it in the tortilla roll or whatever, and with meat or whatever. I thought it was always good, I liked it and not to like try to be Indian either. It was just I actually liked it, I was a chubby kid, so I didn't, I wasn't pushing food away.
Right.
You miss those days though? You miss all those old time days like that?
Yeah, yeah, I do, because it comes like a memory of my mom being around, she's not here any longer. She's been, gone for a little while. So yeah. We always have like, fond memories of our family, of our mom and, certain pastimes or whatever. So yeah, I definitely miss some of those times, the smell of food, my mom always cooked, and my mom, would always put food on when guests, and this was like, years before phones were like a big thing, visitors would just pop over, just out of nowhere. There was no phone calls or nothing like that.
Yeah.
And, I just remember my mom would just like put on food and put on coffee and just like entertain and, keep the, company, fed and stuff like that. So, that's one of the things I do miss, like coming in there, being a kid and,
The goggles on.
Yeah. Being young and going into that trade, you see that, it's like, and I didn't really think about that, when, I first got into the business, and this was probably about like 2006 or something like that. And I used to watch, see these older cats that like knew all this stuff, man, like how the hell do you know all this stuff? And they seem pretty young, and then here I am. Now I see younger, cats looking at me like, how the hell do you know all this stuff? I'm just like, man, it's all those years of experience and being out there and trial and error, it's a trip. Sit there and know all that stuff, just like you said, just drop the board down and cut it and just like make it look all easy.
Yeah.
But it doesn't happen overnight, it takes time, but it's it is a good trade to have, sitting there putting that bookshelf up straight, hey.
Like mine, put some on his rolls off to the side.
All sides off, the cup off.
Well, the worst thing is if you don't do that kind of line of work, you don't always have the tools. So like
Sure.
me, I have the tools, and then like my kids will take it or I'll misplace it. So I go to do a project, I'm like, damn, where's my level ladder? Where's my this? So you just start going, you know what? I'm gonna eyeball it. I'm gonna this or that, and everything just comes out like it looks good, but it's like 80% good.
Right.
Would have been a solid 90 if I'd had the right tools.
The right tools.
But I don't got the tools. It would have been 100 if I knew what I was doing.
Right.
But it's like you just do your thing. The one thing about like all of that is like whether it's framing or whatever, the knowing those skills is like. And I think right now with all of this COVID stuff going on, and I think, and maybe it's just on my mind because I have kids right now. My oldest is 18, my second oldest is 16. These guys are starting to become adults and stuff. And looking forward, it's like, what are they going to do with themselves? And it's like coming from a reservation, there's many options, kind of. Like they can stay with grandma, they can stay with me, they can, apply for some kind of tribal housing. I guess they can just kind of hang around the res. A lot of people do that, you know what I mean? There's resources here. They're not, none of them are going to starve, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like their aunt or uncle will give them some food and take them in, But it's like, that's not a life I want for them, or I hope they want for themselves. I want them to go out, try to make something of themselves and make good decisions, whatever those decisions are. And it seems like what gets fed to the kids always is like, okay, go to college,
Right.
and then go get a career. And I'm not saying that that's bad, because I did that myself. And I think that you get a lot out of that, but I think it's also can be limited too, because a lot of times you're sending these kids to college and there's student loans and there's no guarantee they're going to finish college. You might go 3-4 years in and just go, this isn't for me.
Right.
And then there's no guarantee when you get that degree you're going to get the job that you want or in the career. Thing that gets told to every kid, and I've been an educator for a lot of years, so I've said it to people, go to college, do this. It's just kind of like a rubber stamp, what you're supposed to do in life, but it's like, that's not for everybody. It doesn't fit everybody, and the economy can't survive if everyone's doing that. We need somebody to build our homes. We need someone to fix the electric and the plumbing in our homes.
Right.
We need people to do the, to work on our cars or to do the, the grading of the, and to do the sewage and the water infrastructure program. We need all of that stuff to be done. So someone's got to have those skills. And there's a lot of young people out there who I think if they went into that field, they would really feel invigorated by it, because it is a lot of like on your toes thinking. It is a lot of like freedoms, but at the same time, it's a lot of responsibilities put on you, and it's a very much a different mindset than I'm going to sit in a classroom for, the next 4 years, 5 years and have to repeat, that learning you got in high school. Some people didn't like that style of learning.
Right.
So to be able to learn with your hands and to go out and do things, and then like you said, to have the opportunity to become your own boss and to build yourself, I think that's a message that a lot of times is just like not given to our youth. And it sucks because like my son, he's graduating high school, and I, the question's always like, oh, what are you doing after high school? And I hear it from a lot of youth, they're like, oh, I'm going to college, and that's like the number one thing. I'm going to college. And then it's like, and it's sad because it's like, if you're going to a really nice college, you're going to a UCLA or, USC or something, and everyone's like, yeah, and then other kids who aren't going there but do have college, dreams.
Right.
Well, I'm just going to a 4-year college. You hear them, they say, well, I'm just going to, like they're putting themselves down, I'm just going to community college. And it's like, no, you could wind up at that big university too.
Right.
First 2 years are just your coursework. It's not, you're not less than that other kid, but we give that message to these kids. And then kids who don't want to do college at all, they're just like, well, I don't know, I'm just going to figure it out. And you can just hear it in their voice. Parents have to feel bad about it, like their kids they didn't become something.
Right.
When the reality is, it's like, this isn't a finish line. They're just starting their life. Like, they're all on even slates. I don't care if you're going to a 4-year college, you got a full ride. I don't care if you're a gifted athlete. I don't care if you're some valedictorian, or if you're a kid that, smoked weed through all 4 years and passed, you got out with a D- average. You're all clean slates as adults, and what you're going to become in the next 20 to 30 years really starts right there, like what are you going to become? Right. You can start from nothing, very humble, and build yourself to be a very, well-off person, and well-adjusted, not just money, but, health and psychologically and all those things. And you can see people shot out of a cannon and burn out,
right?
Like go 2-3 years in college and be like, I'm saying for me, and quit,
right?
Fall off the deep end, and it's crazy just to see that as you get older, because when you're 18 you don't feel that.
Right, of course.
But so my son's turning 18, and I have that in my mind. I see it, I'm like, wow, the things haven't changed. Like we still put that on our kids, So like I asked my son, like someone asked me, what's your son doing? I said, I don't even know. Like he had some stuff he told me he wanted to do, and I know in his mind he knows what he wants to do because that's just the way he is.
Right.
So he may not tell me, but I know he knows and I know he has a plan.
Right.
So I'm just like, I don't know. We'll see what he does. I've just purposely kind of been like, I don't know. Whatever he's gonna do, he's gonna do. I support him, and I know he'll do something. What are we supposed to be telling our kids or advising them when they ask us? And so for me, I've been trying to educate myself in things like entrepreneurship, ownership, investments,
right?
Things that are not necessarily traditional to our economy on the res.
Of course.
Our grandparents didn't have all these things. They were living in huts they'd made themselves, and their parents were like old school Indians just living off the land, Right. So we're very new to this new kind of American economy. So how do we navigate and create generational wealth, like you're talking about, build a home, fields that you're in. It's like I think sometimes they're undervalued by people. Because, okay, if I send a kid to college, right? If I send my kid to college, it's going to be, I don't know, maybe 50 grand to educate that kid.
Of course.
I think that's a very modest number. I think some people spend that in a year.
Right.
But let's just say 50 grand to get that guy a 4-year degree. And again, that's very modest. It's probably closer to, 75.
That's more than that, yeah.
But 50 grand, and he goes and gets a job and he has to pay that back. And, over a period of time, he might make himself $1 million more with that degree, I think is what the studies say. And again, the economy is going to be funky from here on out, so the old numbers probably don't apply.
Right.
But okay, he makes $1 million more over a course of 20 to 30 years. He's going to make $1 million more. Same time, if that person, my son, went out and learned, say, construction, he could potentially build his own home.
Right.
Maybe build 2 homes on land. And those homes, over the period of 10 to 20 years could be worth $1 million, maybe each.
Right.
So it's like that degree's worth money. And it took time, it took that sweat, that equity to build, to get that knowledge, to get that degree. They don't just get sent to you, you gotta work for it. But at the same time, all the knowledge of how to build a house, the construction knowledge, you have to work for that, like you're saying. You gotta be that young guy to the old guy, and You got to throw those nails, and you got to be there to learn. You got to want to do it. But it's not all for nothing. You're not just some construction guy. You have the ability to go out and build a home that could potentially grow in wealth, and then, like you said, give it to your kids.
Right.
And now you're giving them a gift that's could potentially be worth $500,000, $1 million, who knows what,
Right.
as property. There's two things in America that I learned that always seem to increase. One is, of course, the stock market.
Right.
There's times where there's lulls and it goes down and it stagnates, but if you go back 100 years ago, to today, it goes up. And the number two is real estate. Boom. Real estate always, it climbs. It may take time, it may stagnate, it may go down a little bit, but if you write it out, real estate always becomes worth more.
Right.
Those are the two for sure bets in our country, or in the last 100 years. So it's like, why would you not put that to your children and say, hey, go buy real estate and put a quality home on there? And yeah, you can pay someone $300,000 to do it, or you can do it yourself for a quarter of the cost, what I mean? But you got to have those skills.
That's true. Being in the trade, and then, being like, the contractor, you have to know so many, assets of construction. It's not like just, you're swinging a hammer all day long and putting boards together. There's like so many things to know by codes and by law and stuff. So it's not, so that's a lot that comes to it. By the time, when you finally get to that point, then you can sit there and teach the younger guys that want to sit there and maybe take that career path, and you show them the way or whatever. So then you have guys that work for you that know how to build stuff the right way, so there's not like all these legalities that are against you, because you wanted to half-ass it. So you have to like kind of be diligent about running your business, or the things that come with the construction. So, it took like a whole lot of experience to get to that point,
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes society or pop culture, whatever, they want to kind of like pretend people work with their hands are dummies or something, or they like weren't intellectual to go to college or something, but that's not true, man. To own your own business, or to, like you said, deal with those contracts, deal with the all the different legalities of it all, man, that takes a lot of brain power, whether you're in, like, if you're in...
There's a lot of stuff to know in the business, if you're doing electrical, you got to know all the codes, you got to know all the standards, and, you got to be able to know how to write stuff up and have a contract, so that way you're not getting into a legal dispute with your customer if something goes wrong, that way you're protected. So there's like the legal part about it, and then there's the business part about it that has to do with money, and the same thing for plumbing. Plumbing's the same thing, you don't want to sit there and do something and then all of a sudden something goes wrong. And that's why it's important to be like bonded, insured, you cause a flood or start a fire. That's all legal lawsuits and stuff like that. So it's important for you to know what you're doing, both legally and, the fundamentals of construction, so it's like a lot of stuff that you actually have to know besides physically doing the work. So
is that do you have to be self-motivated to kind of learn that stuff? I mean, it seems like you would. It seems like you just be a laborer your whole life.
Yeah.
Or you can choose to kind of learn more.
You get to the point, where, everybody's different. Some people just are content being a laborer and just want to work for somebody like that.
Yeah.
But then when you sit there and you see the boss, driving a nice truck and, taking vacations and telling people what to do and this and that, and, behind closed doors, that looks all good and everything, but there's a lot of work involved into it. But you know what? I would rather take that more extra work to have my financial freedom and, kind of run my own ship than to sit there and, run under somebody else, because it's like, a little bit, because you got your own way of like running business, and when you're just like the labor or whatever, it's like, oh, how come the boss does it like this, and we're out here this and that, and you see them making money off of your blood, sweat, and tears, stuff like that. So you get to a point, it's like, hey, you know what, I could be the boss. And it's happened to me a lot of times before I became my own boss, where they sit there and see me doing the work, the boss comes in like, oh yeah, everything's good, okay, blah blah blah, boom, gone, go golfing for the day, or go wherever they're going to go do whatever they do, and then you're out there doing the work, and you're only making X amount of dollars, and when you sit there and add it up, it's like, man, I'm capped out, like I'm not going to make more than this, and unless I get a raise. And so for you to get a raise, you either got to ask your boss, or you got to start jumping from company to company to get that raise. And that's how construction guys do it, unless they, companies, some of them will pay, some of them don't, but the ones that see the value in their employees will like give their guy a raise and keep them happy. But the ones that are not, they're going to jump ship and go where their money's at, So you just get to a point where, it's like, I don't want to sit there and like work for this guy where I'm making so much money. I could be my own boss and, you know, that's when you got to take that leap, you know, like.
Is that scary?
Oh, definitely, it's scary. You know, when I decided to do that, I was kind of like in that boat that I'm talking about. Just got tired of like being told what to do, or not really so much told what to do. I'm always been a team player. I'll never tell you no that I can't do it. I'm not going to do it or whatever. But you know, if you're asking me to like, you know, do something, and you know, I sit there and see a way to like make it happen better, productively, safely, and stuff like that, I'm going to share my, you know, opinion with you, and you know, hopefully we're on the same page. And you know, because what's good for me is good for you. You know, it's good for business because we're on the same team. You know, with the goal in sight, you know, with the deadline in sight and stuff like that. But you know, if you're asking me like, hey, stop what you're doing, give me a material list, and you still come and check the job for a material list, then why you stop me like on production? You know, it's like,
Yeah.
you know, you're not really helping us out right here, or you know, question me if I'm your main guy. You know, like I don't want to do that because that's kind of like, you know, frustrating, and it just seems like you're not confident in my decision making. Like, why are you asking, you know, when I tell you we need this and that, and then you ask me like, what do we need this for? It's like, you know, I don't, then come over here, do your own list. Like, you know what, I don't want to deal with this, so I'm going to do my own thing, you know. So what happened was like, I just kind of got tired with those things, different situations, you know, and at that time I was working on weekends, you know, for myself. So slowly I was establishing clientele, and my jobs were starting to get a little bit bigger than just like.
So you didn't just do it overnight, like, all right, I'm gonna start my business
no.
tomorrow. You weren't like pissed off, I'm gonna do my own thing.
No way, not even.
Okay.
It didn't start like that. You know, after I came home from my unwanted vacation, you know, I wasn't doing what I was doing anymore for, you know, my financial, you know, offset balance or whatever income. So I just, you know, I took what I already knew, you know, because I've been in the construction trade for a while, and you know, I just started implementing on the weekends, you know. People.
You know, it's weird you bring up time like that because you know, time is, I feel like it's such a weird thing for natives especially, and because, you know, first off, we don't tend to age a lot, you know, like you'll see somebody and you're like, man, that person seems like they look the same my whole life. How old are they? You find out they're like really old, you're like, damn, they look good, you don't age, you know, and then they do age, and then they look that way forever, you know, like, but anyways, so there's that, and then the other part of that too is like, I know on the res here, like the average age of death is 42. I don't know if you knew that, but they did a study a while back on that.
Wow.
42, you know, and it's, you don't think about that when
young, man.
That's young as heck, man. That's scary to think that in this community, you know, and it's like we, you know, that's something you have always helped too with our community, is always going in and digging and helping out. You know, you grew up in this community, and as part of that, you know, we're all supposed to help out the best way we can, and that's one way. I know you do a lot of that work. But yeah, man, 42 is the age, the average age of death on our res. And I don't think of my res as being all violent or like all crazy, or it's just people that go kind of early, you know, and it's, and so you think about that, and I go, well, damn, in Alpine the average age jumps like 30 years older or something like that, and it's 10 minutes away.
Oh, is that right?
That's crazy to think, like, if you live in this community versus 10 minutes away, like there's such a gap in like how long you're gonna make it. To me, it's scary, and I think about that with time, because it's like, man, all those dreams, aspirations, like we want to build for our kids and grandkids. It's like a lot of times our windows are a lot smaller than you know, we don't got 70 years to do that. We might only have 40 years to do that, you know, and it's like, that's the trip. So when I think of time, I think of that. Same time, you know, you could be on the res, and I learned this at school, you know, I was chilling on the res with everybody, whatever, and they go to school, and I was in the books, got my bachelor's, master's, you know, got a career, all this and that. Seemed like 10 years went by, like a blink, dude, like a blink, and I was like, whoa, I still looked the same, felt the same, I was kind of healthy, and then, but it'd been a lot of years, and then when I go around the res and hang around, it's like, ain't nothing changed, dude, like, everyone who is kind of chilling, still kind of chilling. You know, that's why I tell a lot of kids on the res, I'm like, you know, go do what you're going to do, because when you come back, a lot of things are going to be this. You're not going to miss out, man. You know, a lot of people just do that's their life. That's what they do, you know. They're not going to change. They're not going to miss it. The res parties they'll still be there, you know. And a lot of the same people will still be there. And they'll look the exact same in 10 years because we don't age, you know. It's a trip. I always just think of the time like that. Like, we're in a weird time warp on the res in a lot of ways.
You know, what's crazy too is like starting getting, you know, just like a year ago, starting off and, you know, doing my own thing and stuff like that. And, you know, I feel like I should be further, but I'm actually on a good path to where I want to be. And, you know, I have admiration and, you know, goals for myself, you know. And, you know, for something like that right around the corner is kind of scary because I feel like I'm just barely starting my life, you know,
Yeah.
this later in my life, you know, I'm just like, oh man, you know. And I'm a believer and I'm a dreamer of my own, you know, goals and dreams, you know. And so that's what keeps me up and going, you know. And, you know, I just, you know, the average thing it is scary, you know, it's like right around the corner. I'm like trying to start my life going here, you
I
know?
think you'll make it. You'll double
Yeah.
that. I think you will, man. I really do.
Yeah.
'Cause you take care of yourself, and you're involved in things that are, you know, you're gonna last a long time. You know, get up, going to work. You're probably gonna last longer than if you're all rezzed out, partied out somewhere.
You know, one of the
That's
things
it.
that I remember and I'll never forget is from my one of my bosses, the one that actually like put me on in 2010, that I learned a lot from. And we're sitting there working, and we're working at an older lady's house or whatever. And you know, I was just like sitting there thinking to myself, you know, I'm just like, man, I can't wait to retire and this and that. But then, you know, we're working at this lady's house, and you know, I'm just like, well, if I retire, then what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna like sit here and like cruise around. If I'm not established, which I'm not, and you know, I'm not now, but you know, I was even less then. You know, at that time, I was like, what am I gonna do? I'm just gonna sit there and cruise around the house and just like wither away and just like die. I'm just like, I don't, you know what? I don't want to retire. I'm not ready for that. I need to
Yeah.
like kick up my life and you know get it started or whatever. And you know what I remember my old boss saying, he's all like, hey, he's all, you know what? If you don't use it, you lose it. You know, and you know, I give like a lot of respect to that guy. His name is Scott Jennings, man. He taught me like a lot of stuff that I know. And
Some of our youth and some of our people have lived in great despair. You know, we have a lot of bad history. We have a lot of trauma and things like that.
right,
And so, you know, I think of course that's a huge part of it. I don't want to get away from that, but I think some of it too is like you're 18 or 19, you know, and it's so easy to fall into that quote unquote res life. You're not doing much, you know, and that way of life is not healthy, dude. You go on those bingers and you know you're out partying out for a couple years, you know, which means like 3-4 days of the week you're out, you're hitting it, you know, and you're just living an unhealthy life. You're not eating good.
yeah,
I mean, I look at some people, and I don't want to throw nobody's name, throw anybody under the bus, but I can think of people that I remember them looking at them and going, dude, I don't know if they're gonna make it. They look bad.
yeah,
And then they get their life together, and you know, and they're back in shape. And like, oh man, you look good, you know, and it's like it's cool to see them make it and get to that point. But some people don't make it there. Some people go through that binger and they don't make it.
Yeah.
They're done, and it's
You know-
like we're burying them. It
Yeah,
sucks, dude. I hate that.
You know, the res life is a little bit tough, you know, like, you know, I grew up here and stuff like that and have friends and, you know, people I consider family here and stuff. And, you know, it's a bubble. It's easy to get caught up in, you know, especially with the money flowing and stuff like that. And, you know, everybody's partying. And it took me getting kicked off the res for me to kind of, you know, kind of figure my stuff out. Like, I always kind of was borderline, like, teetering, like, what I was going to do. I'm just like, I can't do what everybody on the res is doing because I don't get per capita like that. But, you know, it took me getting off, you know, kicked off the res and then, you know, trying to be there for my kids and stuff like that. And my kids, too, being like something that I always wanted to do was like be a good dad for my kids, you know. So it's like, you know, all these things kind of equated, even though I made a couple, you know, choices that kind of challenged my life or made it more difficult. I always kind of knew what I needed to do, but getting away from the res is what kind of helped me go that way. You know, I did, you know, take a couple left turns or whatever and, you know, end up in some bad places, but, you know, I was able to prevail and, you know, get away from that because I still had that work ethic because I knew in the back of my mind, like, I can't stop working. I don't get money like that. You know, this is my life. Nobody's going to hand it to me or give it to me, so I have to sit there and, you know, even though this is my consequence now for like the choices I made, you know, I could get out of this, you know, it's not the end of the world, but, you know, I have to sit there and see it through that, you know, I come out on the other side of this, you know, so, you know, you know, back to what you're saying, you know, just being on the res is like a little bit different. It's easy to get caught up and be wrapped up in that bubble here, you know?
Yeah, it is, man, you know, and it's a bummer to see when people don't get that opportunity to come out the other side and make something themselves. I mean, a lot of our, one thing I've learned, you know, and like when you're young, you see people and you just assume they've always been that way. One thing I've learned is that like a lot of these leaders, you know, and whether they're political leaders or cultural leaders or elders, like they've been through it too, you know, and they'll be the first to tell you like, man, I used to do this, that, and whatever, you know, and you know, I got wrapped up in this or I made this bad mistake, and you're like, oh wow, you know, like you don't seem like a person that would do that because I know you as
Right.
being established. I know you as
Right.
being respectful, or we're all, I come up and shake your hand. Like I don't know you to be, but if you really ask them or you know them, you know that they've been through some things and they've made those bad choices, but they were
Yeah.
able to weather that storm
Yeah.
and get there. And it's like there's people along the way who don't get that chance.
There's also too, I want to get back to the community. I know as a young parent, and some things, were my own mistakes, and I could have done differently, but my kids, is something that I've always had to fight for, even till this day I still have to fight for like custody, and it's affected our relationship, and that's something that's always kind of like bothered me. But at that age when I was young, I didn't know which way to turn as far as like resources and how to get out of the funk, or like where could I go for being a young dad and trying to fight for custody of my kids. I didn't know any of the legal system or nothing like that. So along with this whole construction stuff, eventually when I do get to the point where I can invest into property or something like that, maybe like a small apartment, fix it up and make it like a housing for men that are in that same situation that don't know how to turn, or maybe they do have drug abuse, alcohol abuse, and are looking for help and they have kids young and things are not working out for them, like get with different resources or people that could help them get education and give them this place that will have like a home for them, to sit there and have their kids or whatever, as long as like there's some like rules or guidelines for them to fit in this criteria for them to sit there and be dads to their kids. Because some dudes go through this stuff and they don't really know how to get the help or look for it, and they turn to drugs and alcohol, and next thing you know, so they're just going down this road and can't get back. And when they want like like most of the dudes I know, like they want to be good dads to their kids,
Yeah.
a lot, some of us didn't grow up with dads. I didn't grow up with a dad, so like before I even had kids, like yeah, I want to be the best dad I could be. I didn't have those resources or didn't know how to like find them or see them out. So that's something that I want to get back to the community, like later on when I kind of get established, I'm able to do so. To sit there and take something and give these younger guys an opportunity, and I think that contributes to society. Dads that are raising their kids.
Yeah.
Statistics show that they fare a little bit better than kids in broken homes. Not saying that
Yeah.
kids in broken homes won't prosper and stuff like that, but I think if kids are in with their dads or whatever, be a little bit contribute a little bit better to society. Not running amok because they got like that father figure.
Absolutely. It's a skill, man. That's one thing that, like, I think people from time, like, I have 5 kids, and I was just talking to my wife about this, because, again, my son's turning 18, so it's, like, all on my brain. He just had his birthday last week. But, so he is 18 now. I better kick him out. But, it's time to get out.
Yeah.
But, no, I remember being, like, scared. Like, dang, dude, like, I don't know that I could, like, we could do this. My wife was like, we're scared, like, how do we take care of this kid, like, this is our life now, like, we mess up, he ain't gonna make it, you know what I mean, like, we gotta try to make good decisions. And it's like, I did have a dad, I did have male models around and stuff, so I had people to go to and help and everything. Same time, like, their generation's different.
Right.
Me changing all these diapers, everyone's like, was looking at, a lot of people were looking at me sideways, like, wow, man, you're changing diapers? And it's like, yeah, man, I wanna try to do everything I can. And so my parenting style was a little bit different than
that generation was
the
different
generation
though.
before,
My
yeah.
mom would kind of like, not shunned or whatever. It's like, hey, why are you coming home and cooking and cleaning? And that's a lady's job. And that's like that's that age gap though, that generation gap though,
Yeah.
because that's that traditional thing. Like a woman belongs in the kitchen, but society's changed.
Yeah.
That's the old ways. So it's like, hey, women are bringing, bringing money to the table too. So it's like kind of like more of an equal thing. And the older generation.
Trust me, I know. My
they
wife's on
understand it.
council. My wife's on council. I get it. Don't you know I'm on council? I'm like, okay, here we go. So how do you want your tortillas, honey? Hey, you want them thick or thin?
You got your apron on, please.
But it's true though, man. Changing times. But again, they don't. I mean, Man, and most of the dudes I know are trying to be good dads. You know?
Yeah.
Even the ones that are terrible, most of them are trying. But
Yeah.
again, it doesn't just click in your brain like, oh, this is what I'm supposed to do. It's a learning process.
Yeah, of course.
Being a father is a skill. It's a skill set.
You know, being up here on the res and stuff like that, partying and everything like that, you know, I didn't really realize it until after that time had passed. I'm just like, man, you know what, I'm self-medicating, man. I'm sitting there drinking and smoking weed and all that stuff, and, you know, like, I knew what I wanted to do, but I didn't know how to get there, and so that was part of my struggle, you know, like I said, getting kicked off the res and making a few bad turns is just like, man, you know what, like, this is, you know, now that I think about it, I was like, man, that's why I just, like, didn't, you know, because I felt like I just kept on, like, you know, wanting to say, you know, F it and, you know, just do whatever I want to do and, you know, forget that I even had kids, but, you know, deep down inside, I couldn't live with myself, you know, without fighting for them, so, you know, that's why I think it's important to me, you know, to, like, be able to, because I went through that and didn't know where to turn or whatever, so, yeah, it's something that's in like my sight of, you know, something I want to do here.
You know, 3, 4, 5 generations ago, our people had generational wealth, but it was in the knowledge of the plants and the knowledge of the land, and you know how to take care of each other and the wisdom and all these different things, and that was a wealth. And I think that was taken away when the boarding schools came and the movements of people came in, and that you know 4 or 5 decades of just extreme poverty came. It was hard for our people to make it, you know, and I think a lot of that kind of went away. But at the same time, you know, it remained. That's why we're still here. Community, we're doing that. We're strengthening ourselves, and then the next generation is going to feel the benefit of that. It's like an investment. And I think as an individual, I want to, you know, people think of generational wealth. It's money, but it's not just having a savings account with money. It's usually not that. It's usually having like stocks, you know, having interest in that. But I really think it's a big part of it is having real estate, having homes that you can send down the way to your kids and grandkids, because they can use that as collateral to take out a loan to build their business if they want to do that. That real estate becomes worth something. They have somewhere to live, you know, and so creating that generational wealth, something to give to your kids. And I think a big part of that generational wealth is the knowledge and the confidence that, hey, you can go out and do something for yourself. You can build yourself. You can go and learn and create a trade for yourself or own a business. And here's how you're supposed to manage these kind of monies, and here's what you shouldn't do, and here's how to stay away from those pitfalls.
Back to what you're saying, you know, like leadership earlier, you know, it's like, I think it starts with that, you know, you're a dad to your kids, and, you know, they know that you went to college and, you know, you had a career in teaching and stuff like that, so, you know, when you sit there and you tell them that, it's not like you're just like pulling out of thin air because you didn't do something with yourself, because, you know, you could sit there and speak from experience, you know, when I look at some of these other guys, they could, you know, sit there and talk down, you know, to their kids about that too, you know, like myself, you know, like even though it took me a while to get where I'm at and I'm still, you know, trying to get further, you know, that this is just a stepping stone, I can share, you know, with my kids, you know, and, you know, who I spend a lot of time with is my youngest daughter, you know, because she's still under 18, so she goes back and forth, but it's like, hey, you know, like this is what you should do with your life, find something that, you know, you're going to enjoy doing, something that's going to be worthwhile for you, find your thing, you know, it's like, you know, if it's me that motivates you, let me be your motivation, you know, it's like, because it took me a while to get where I'm at, you know, and they might not get it the first time around, you know, but, you know, stay persistent, you know, just continue to keep on grinding, you know that you're doing it for a purpose and not just spinning your wheels, you know, to end up nowhere, like, know that there's a goal in sight, you know, even if you fall off track a couple of times, you know, just know that, you know, you want to get there, just keep on, you know, keep on trying, you know, I always, like, try to encourage that to, like, my daughter, you know, like, and I tell it, you know, and I have to look at myself as an example, you know, because, you know, where I was at like 4 or 5 years ago, I was just barely walking out of those steel bar cages down in, you know, Otay or whatever, and then here I am now, you know, but it didn't start then either, though. It's been something that I've been progressing towards, you know, so, you know, that's something that, you know, I, you know, try to just, you know, tell my, you know, my daughter and my kids, you know, just stay persistent, you know, stay goal-orientated, you know.
It's a beautiful message, man. I think that's all we can do. You know what I mean? Try to build ourselves and tell our kids a good message. Well, man, I want to thank you for coming in, man. We're gonna have to call it. It's been a couple hours.
All right.
But no, you have to come back again sometime and tell us more about your business and stuff like that. I want people to really like hear that. You know, that our own people doing these kinds of things, owning, being in ownership positions to, build themselves up. And, we don't come from necessarily roots where our parents could give us a business. We have to develop it ourselves. That's why I mean, like, we're that generation.
Yeah.
And so we want to be able to give our kids something, so we got to do that. But it's gonna take, people like yourself to do it, show others that it can be done.
Right.
And that, you don't have to, again, be given it. You can develop that, and it's not always easy.
Of course.
And again, the main goal is to try to, not about ourselves, but help our kids, our community, and give back. So thanks for coming in, man,
Hey,
sharing all
appreciate
that.
having me here. Yeah.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen, live from the Res,